Yeah, so this is a really interesting one from Round Rock, Texas. There was a couple incidents. They happened actually a few months ago, each of them. The first one happened in August at a school board meeting, and there was a man, his name was Jeremy Story, and he attempted to present evidence that the superintendent of the school board had assaulted a mistress. He said he had a mistress, he assaulted her, he has his evidence, and I don't know how accurate or not accurate that may have been. What I do know is that the superintendent decided to not let him present this evidence as he started.
Shocking decision on his part.
As he started to present this evidence that he said would prove the superintendent had assaulted a mistress, the superintendent had a police officer escort this man from the building. It's interesting because I want to go into this a little bit too. In Texas, there are police forces that work in conjunction with the school district. So the Round Rock Independent School District actually has its own police department. It's not super big. There's a few officers. There is actually a canine unit that is part of it. And so they have, some resources, but it's not as big as, a full police department. But it appears there was a police officer from this unit that escorted this person away. Then in September, partly, I would assume, due to this incident and partly due to the fact that they are going to be discussing a mask mandate in the school district, which is clearly a controversial subject that we've heard a lot about from parents, from anyone really who's been affected over the last couple of years by these mask mandates, but especially at school board meetings, it's been a hotly debated topic. And so they decided that they were just going to not let a majority of parents in the room. It doesn't really specify. This article is from the City Journal. They didn't really specify whether any parents were let in the room, but it said a majority of parents were not allowed to be in the room during this meeting. They locked them out. And there was a second man. His name is Dustin Clark, and he was arguing that they should open the doors, that this is a public meeting. They should be allowed to hear it.
Right.
That's their right to go to if they want. And he was specifically arguing that they're talking about this mask mandate. They were also talking about the potential for a tax that they were going to be raising to fund the school, basically fund the school district. And he said, so if you're going to be talking about taxes, masks, these things are affecting us. We should be allowed to be here and voice our opinion, or at least listen to what you have to say. And they didn't like that he was asking to be let in. The City Journal said that he was calmly demonstrating. He wasn't trying to break in or anything like that. But they didn't like that he was arguing with them. So once again, they asked the police officer to take him away, this time off of the school premises entirely, and remove him so that they didn't have to deal with him anymore. And this article from the City Journal, there's just a sentence I wanted to read because it's pretty shocking. It says, quote, "As he was dragged out by two officers, Clark shouted to the audience, 'It's an open meeting. Shame on you. Communist, communist. Let the public in.'" So he's being dragged away. He's shouting. I mean, I guess you can imagine the scene. It's pretty surreal to be thinking something like that is happening. But you would think, maybe that's the end of it. Okay, they didn't want them at the school board meeting. All right, that's fine. That wasn't the end of it. A few days later, they sent police officers who were from their police force, and they were working in conjunction with the local sheriff's office. They also got permission from them. So it wasn't just the school district police force. It was also the local sheriff department. They're working in conjunction. And they actually arrested both of these men for what they called disorderly conduct that was aimed at disrupting a meeting. Apparently, that's an actual crime that they arrested them for.
If you disrupt a meeting that people aren't even allowed into.
Yes.
That's disorderly conduct. Okay, I got that.
So they arrested them. They actually spent a night in jail, and then they were let out. They're now facing still these charges. They have a fundraiser set up for their legal fees. And so my first question to you guys is, just what kind of precedent are we setting if we're going to say that anyone who voices concern in a school board meeting is a threat to the point where they need to have armed officers sent to their house? Is this something we really want to be a path that we want to be going down?
Well, we're already a ways down this path. It began with the National School Boards Association. They put out that letter saying, hey, it's all domestic terrorism whenever parents are committing domestic terrorism when they come and
speaking aloud.
But when they come and threaten the school boards. Of course, nobody ever defined what threaten means. And seems like it just means parents being really angry and really loud, which is not illegal in any way.
It's called free speech. Yep.
Exactly. So that began, and the National School Boards Association apologized for doing that letter, but nevertheless, Merrick Garland sent out FBI task forces to investigate parents and put them on these red flag lists to determine if they were actual terrorist threats. Then from there, also in kind of all those northern Virginia counties where we saw those controversies over the last few months, Loudoun, Fairfax, Prince William. All those counties had this similar situation where school boards were not letting parents into the meetings. Parents would protest outside, and then the whole meeting would get shut down, and they'd say, "Oh, well, it was civil disobedience and disorderly conduct and all this stuff." So this has been building up for a few months now, and now for them to kind of mobilize law enforcement against anyone after the fact, they're not even pulling them out to begin with. They're targeting these parents after it's already said and done. That is pretty shocking. And what is the precedent? Well, the precedent is you can't speak out against your school.
Yeah.
Even if it's a public school, even if they're supposed to be working for you, you have no say in what they're teaching your children.